Let's give this little car some attention today. Really got to get that hood off and get it sprayed. That clear coat's gone, even the base. Not good. Not a bad car overall. Considering the back was completely stoved in at one point, they've done a really good job of fixing it. They just haven't painted it properly. They didn't get in there. That's all gone. Yeah. This car's been rear-ended and front-ended, and they've done a really good job of the bodywork. Like, everything will pass roadworthy for sure, but they just didn't paint the bloody thing properly. Especially the hood, that's terrible. It was only done a few years ago. Yeah, she definitely needs a service. It's not the happiest old engine, but it still works fine. What is it? Midday, 12 o'clock. Not too bad. Definitely needs a vacuum, still full of dog fur. Give everything a clean and a wipe down. Fix that up. The latch is disintegrated long ago. There's one of the little camming levers from it. Yeah, I know I drive autos 2 foot like that. That's one thing you don't want to get confused about and try and do in a manual, because as long as your foot's off the clutch, you still be driving. But I don't have any problem with it. I've got pretty good coordination, hand-eye foot coordination. But I can understand some people who can barely drive a manual, regardless of how much practice they get. I'd never let them 2 foot an auto or even get in a manual again. So there are safety aspects of 2 footing autos, but it's only if you're a real ditz and you just get confused very easily about what your feet are doing. I've got no problem going from a manual to an auto, 2 foot, 1 foot auto to manual, normal. Yeah, just picked it up very quickly since I've had this car. I haven't driven it much. I mean, I don't mind the autos and things, but it's not too bad. I just want to move it in for a service. Yeah, on the grass. It doesn't like it. And up onto the mat. That piece of conveyor belt matting is the best thing I've set up out here. It's about 20mm thick conveyor belt, and it's perfect for working on. So that's what we'll be doing this morning. I've definitely got to do those engine mounts when I find some from a supplier. It loves to vibrate and wobble around. Okay, so we had a look at the little Ford Festiva yesterday. Today we're looking at the Nissan Micra, which is a different animal, as I said in the original video. As you can see, it is a twin cam 16 valve engine, chain driven camshaft, no belts. Nissan make a pretty good engine, and you can actually swap these out with a better model, higher performance, that sort of thing. I've seen a lot of Micras done up for track racing, drifting, that sort of thing. It would be a lot of fun to crank a lot more horsepower out of one of these, but for now I'm just keeping it stock. I mean, you can get turbo kits for this engine, but this engine's already done 186,000 Ks, so I wouldn't really want to put a turbo or a supercharger on it without first rebuilding the long block assembly. The manual transmission's fine, it's got a new clutch and everything, but I just don't really trust the long block. I've got a feeling the valve stem seals for a start are leaking a bit. Just after sitting for like a week or so, you just get a little bit of a puff of smoke on startup. Very typical of a failed stem seal. So there's a bit of work to do on it. It's had a new dissy cap and leads, I think last service. That's all fresh and new, so that's a good bonus. Hopefully they did the rotor as well. Plugs, I don't know how old they are, but I bought new ones anyway. They look fairly shiny and clean, but then they're fairly well out of the weather down inside the cylinder head. But I'll put new ones in anyway for the sake of $4 each or $3.50, whatever they were. Yeah, not much else on this car. Again, it's got alternator on the other side to the Micra, the Festiva. Festiva's alternator's on that side. AC compressor is directly below it in the most inaccessible area possible. I want to fix the oil leak on this timing chain cover. It looks like it's leaking out from underneath there. Yeah, that engine mount's torn and that has to come off anyway before I can do the seal on this, so I'm going to source some engine mounts before I pull all this apart. The bearings in these idlers, that one there and that one below it, which sort of goes in place of a power steering pump, I guess. Some of these models did have power steering and that's probably where the pump would be, but there's an idler tensioner there and an idler tensioner there. They both look like they're adjustable. I've got the water pump in stock now, so that can be done anyway, but I might just save it till I actually pull a whole lot apart. I'll go to Repco and get the mount set, which is that, these rubber little thrust washers, and two mounts. There's a lower mount down there, and one at the back, which is probably going to be the hardest one to get. I'm going to have to put this car up on stands and do that one. Not hard. I've got all the equipment to do it, it's just a matter of making time. Which I should have anyway, because I've got a whole week to do this. Anyway, I'm just going to give this a basic once over, have a look at the intake system, which is different to the Festiva. The Festiva's has an airbox with the MAF meter back here, but in this case it's all stacked on top of itself. There's the mass airflow meter, there's the throttle position sensor. So the MAF meter fits straight on top of the throttle body. So a completely different animal. Still works the same, but just the way everything's crammed in there is different. Might make things easier or might make things harder to work on, but all I know is if I'm going to clean the throttle body and try and solve the low hot idle issue, like it's barely idling at hot, I'm going to have to get that MAF meter off, because you can't hit that with carby cleaner. Never ever spray carby cleaner into a mass airflow meter. I mean, the flapper type with the potentiometer arm on top aren't so bad, but the hot wire type, never hit them with a cleaner. Keep them spotless, don't hit them with any kind of solvent. You will destroy them. So yeah, I've got to get all this off, get that off. I'm not going to touch the distributor or anything, that's all fine. It's running perfectly fine apart from low idle, little bit irregular. I suppose it wouldn't hurt to pull the dissy cap off and just see if they've done the rotor. See if it's tracing, see if it's sealed. Who knows, you never know with some of these mechanics around here. Or anywhere. And again, the air conditioning works perfectly fine. The hoses are original by the looks of it. Yokohama Rubber Company. Condenser has a nice big bend in it, because this has been knocked on the front. It's pushed the radiator support around a little bit. Now, they haven't replaced it, they've just bogged it. Where is it? There. There's a little bit of bog on there, so it's broken the grille, the bumper and the radiator support, but they haven't had to change the condenser or the radiator itself. That's a bit of a worry. It's all kinked, but still holding full charge. I won't disturb it. The minute I disturb it, it'll start leaking. And again, there's no oil around these fittings, so the air conditioning system's still charged. I suppose I should get my gauges onto it, but don't touch what's not faulty. It just needs more fans. There's nowhere near enough fanage on this car, and the radiator's only from there to there long. It's sort of half the size of a Corolla radiator. That other fan's just for the condenser. Oh well, enough rambling on. I guess I better inspect some of this stuff, make sure the vacuum lines are good. Yeah. Maybe give it a wash. I'll wash all this, wash the front of the engine. Well, I suppose you technically call it the front. The harmonic balancer end. Get all that cleaned up and ready to be opened up. So I'm going to take that inspection cover off to do the seal, or I'll just glue it on with more Copper Max. It looks like that's what they've done before. There's some kind of Copper Max like sealant. Well, that's better. I gave everything a quick wash before I take it apart. It's much easier to work on that way. I've got to take the engine mount off anyway, so I'm just going to position the jack underneath with steel plate or something under it on the sump. It's the only way I can really do it. I don't have an engine crane to pick up one of the lifting mounts, lifting lugs. So I just got to try and unload it without damaging the sump and just lift the engine mount out so that I can, I'll do this inspection plate first off, then we'll look at things like getting this tensioner out, which is pretty straightforward. There's an adjusting bolt, I'll loosen it off and then just take these two out, it should come out. Hopefully there are no other bolts hidden down there, but it doesn't look like it. Serpentine belts are a bit tricky, but these ones are really easy. That one's a 6 PK belt and that one's a 4. So 4 groove, 6 groove. I'll take them to Repco and get the original parts or just compare them. They had about 6 different listings for belts for these cars, some with power steering, some without. Some had one belt running absolutely everything, some didn't. So I'll just take the belts in there, compare the part numbers, and we'll all be right. So yeah, move the car a bit further over so I can work on this heat pump later on, and just leave it parked there. Got enough room to fire up the barbecue as well. Got plenty of old wood and debris from the renovation I'm doing in the shed, so that's really good. We'll have some heat, some more heat, and a nice little car to work on. Just got to clean the place up. I keep finding bloody screws and nails and things around, which isn't the best when you're parking cars around, but thankfully I haven't had any punctures recently, and I just keep fairly good control of what goes out here and what doesn't. Although there's bits of cable and stuff everywhere at the moment, and welding rod stubs. Oh, I should get the sweeper magnet out, but then it's all glued in together with mud at the moment. Summertime I can drag a big sweeper magnet over here and just pick everything up. Make it safe for little cars. Don't want them getting hurt. Oops. Oh, you're a nice specimen, aren't you? It's big too. I don't like you being here. These ones are very venomous. Get a bit of the old bugs be gone. It is very quick. They are very venomous, the old redbacks. I don't know where you came from. I'm guessing it came out of here. I've got these old seat belts and stuff stuffed in there. You've got to be very careful of them and the white tails, also known as the brown recluse. I almost got bitten by one of them one day, and it swells up. It just goes all, it's like gangrene. Very nasty stuff. Good night, Spider. I don't mind the non-venomous ones or the mildly venomous ones, but yeah, your time has passed. Well, mount's pretty easy. Just bolts, 2 pumps of the jack with a plate over the bottom of the sump, just to avoid buckling it. It only took 2 pumps to unload it, and it just came straight out. Very tight bolts, but that's expected. But you can see the mount's compressed upwards. That 5 circle is supposed to be round, and it's almost split. Like it's very soft and very badly damaged. Time for replacement, and that'll be I hope it's just a single replacement piece. I don't have to try and press it out of this housing. Same with these thrust washer thingies. I'm sure yeah, that one's taken a beating. And again, very tight, need extension bars and other stuff. Gotta love plasma TV table. Perfect. It's about the best use for an old analog plasma. They make good tables and good scatter shields. So I'm going to try and take that off. It's just two 14mm bolts. Maybe on second thoughts, no, we'll just leave it there. I can get my socket in there. That's all I'm worried about getting to, is that one bolt. And I can just lower the cover into place, push it on, and then stick the bolt back in. Yeah. I don't know, I might be able to get in there. Just strip the whole lot off the front of the engine and give it a good wash, and then put it all back on again with new parts. What's that one? That idler out, but unfortunately it's all pressed together. I can't just punch that bearing out and replace it. The whole damn thing's one pressed piece. No, I'll just have to buy a whole new one. Bit of a shame, but I believe that's how it came out. There was a washer stuck to it, but I can't remember which side it came out of. Might have been that one. I don't know. I'll look up a tech manual. That's the tensioner arm. I couldn't take the tensioner arm off. And likewise I had to pry the engine over a bit just to get the pulley off. That's the only thing with this sort of setup. You've got a limited amount of space between the chassis rail and the engine to work. Oh, at least I can get the belt off. So that belt just drives the alternator, air conditioning. The other belt just drives the water pump. Yeah, it's not too hard. that's the other one out. Unfortunately, I can see the bearing race nice and clear, but the whole damn thing's pressed in as one set piece. They've even crimped it. I don't like my chances of getting that out without destroying the pulley, so looks like just got to order a set. That one, 2 belts, engine mount, probably a whole mount set. I'll try and do the lower one down there and on the other side. They'll all be pretty flogged, but it's usually this one that cops the most abuse, because that's where the engine's tilting and pushing against it when you load it up. Front wheel drives always cop a lot of abuse. Yeah, I've got to get that water pump off. Probably won't do it today. It means draining the whole cooling system and leaving it dry for a bit. I'll do that once I've got the whole belt set and everything's ready to go back in. But I'll pull that off, clean it up, seal it, get it all back together again, and then I'll be ready to throw the new belts, idlers and water pump in. Apart from that, it's just normal major service stuff, which I was going to get into, but running out of daylight and it's getting cold very quickly. I don't know, I might just give it a quick once over. I'll have a look at the airbox and the MAF meter setup on this. Well, that's the inspection cover off. Looks like a 2-stage system there. There's a step down sprocket, a single chain coming up to here, then up to the camshafts and loops over the top of the 2 of them. A little bit different to what I thought, but not too bad. But well, I found that there's a leak. That was oily when I took it off. Same with there. A little bit out here. It almost looks like they've sealed over the top of some existing sealant. They haven't cleaned it. So I'm going to carefully clean it without getting any crud into the crankcase and see how well it goes. But yeah, you can definitely see down there where that initial oil leak was running down the side of the block. It's all because of, well, the sealant didn't take, or it was stuck over an oily surface or something like that. Inadequate prep before sealing it. And it's definitely not Copper Max either, it's just some other regular garbage. So I'll give this whole thing a good clean up, clean all that up, glue the cover back on, and that'll be done. It's the only place I can find where it's leaking. The rocker cover's fine. As much as I'd like to take it off and paint it red like the rest of the car, I've seen them painted red and they look really nice. With a bit of black writing on it. Run a marker over or a paint pen over the writing on it. Might do that one day. But for now, this nasty little mess is my first concern. Well, it's starting to look better. I'm not done cleaning the face of the head, but I cleaned this up. Looks a lot better. The biggest problem was, I believe they just didn't remove the engine mount. They sort of tried to get a bit of sealant in there, but you can see there was no sealant applied to that area. They might have put a bit on the cover, but they couldn't get in there to clean the oil off, so that sealant did absolutely nothing. So now that I've got the engine mount off, I can get in there with a whatever and just scrub it out, rag and a screwdriver, and just rub all that oil residue off. Yep, bit of prep work makes things last. Unfortunately, some people don't do that. It is awfully messy in there. I wouldn't mind taking the lid off to see what that's like. It's probably a good excuse to paint it, which I'm going to do with this anyway. I'm going to paint that red, just for the fun of it. Because I can, and because, well, I'm going to throw a drop sheet over this, and a nice clean sheet, and leave it for a day or so. I've got to order parts in, so it'll probably be about 2 days before I get the bits that I have to order. But until then, I can probably work on the top part. That's what we'll call today. Do the rest of this today, get stuff painted, and then I'll work on the rest of the top. Clean the carby up, do the spark plugs, take the rocker cover off and paint it. Yeah, apart from that, definitely need a good clean, get the wet dry vac out and suck up all those leaves and things. Maybe even take the covers off and the wiper arms. Yeah. Then when I'm getting closer to roadworthy, I'll do the front brakes and tyres and things. Particularly the brakes. I don't want it sitting around the backyard rusting. These brakes are already rusty as hell. The condition of those rotors is pretty atrocious. So I don't want my new rotors ending up like that. I'd rather be using it more regularly once it's all registered in my name, so that'll be one of the last things I do before roadworthy and transfer to my name. Anyway, I guess I'll paint this up and continue cleaning the head, the inspection cover hole.